The title of my presentation is the Why and How of Disinformation, Datasets, Methods, and Language Models Evaluation. I am a PhD student at, as was mentioned, I am a PhD student at Polish-Japanese Academy of Information Technology and also at University of Padova. And the reason is that I'm doing a double degree under the co-tutel agreement. And I'm also affiliated with NASC from just for two last months. I started the work at NASC. Okay, so let me start with agenda. Firstly, I will introduce you to the topic of disinformation. Then I will introduce you a few data sets which I worked on during my research, because today mainly I will focus on things and stuff which I've done during my PhD studies. At least part of it I will present here. So you will see MIPD, Polish dataset, which we published, Malint, English dataset, which we tried to publish. Now it's under review. And then I will switch to more into persuasion and intent topic, as how we use persuasion techniques and intent knowledge to augment reasoning of large language models. Almost like the pre-final topic will be disinformation narratives, because this is also something we worked on at Polish-Japanese Academy of Information Technology together with my colleague. This is the main topic of my colleague PhD thesis, but I am also taking part in this research. And at the final part, we will conclude, and I will provide some further reading. Okay, so I'm pretty sure that we all understand that disinformation is a quite important topic, especially nowadays. There are many different examples of disinformation that show it can influence even our lives, especially if it comes to medical disinformation. There are examples that people, for example, because of disinformation, they do not they do not want to be treated against cancer, and there are examples that people die because of that. So in medical disinformation shows that it can influence our lives really, and it's really difficult and important topic nowadays. There are many different types of disinformation. So, for example, deepfakes, maybe we also can think about deepfakes as a type of disinformation. But in my PhD studies, during my PhD project, I'm focusing on textual disinformation. And today we'll talk mostly about textual disinformation. Okay, so to talk about disinformation, firstly, we need to understand what disinformation is. So there are different definitions of disinformation, and one of them was provided by a high-level group of experts working for European Commission, and this is a definition which I mostly use. And the definition of disinformation is disinformation may be defined as false, inaccurate, or misleading information designed, presented, and promoted to intentionally cause public harm or for profit. When talking about disinformation, it's also important to mention misinformation. And to understand misinformation, the best way to understand misinformation to show the difference between misinformation and disinformation. So while disinformation is intentional and disinformation is spread to intentionally cause public harm or for profit, then misinformation is defined as unintentionally false, inaccurate, or misleading information. So my main objective for my PhD thesis, for my PhD project, was to improve the detection of disinformation with a focus on identifying manipulation and malicious intent in a monolingual and multilingual textual data. Disinformation is a complex task, and also, as I said, there are different definitions of disinformation, but most of them agree that in the definition of disinformation involve intent to harm and faulty reasoning, faulty arguments, manipulative arguments. So in my work, we propose to break down the problem of disinformation and isolate two different components of disinformation. And the first component of disinformation is more objective component, and it's the how of disinformation. So under the how of disinformation, I understand persuasion techniques of faulty reasoning. And under the why of disinformation, I understand something which is more subjective. And this is malicious intent, because it's also involved in the definition of disinformation. I've already mentioned some terms which would be probably better to at least have a brief understanding of these terms. So I mentioned manipulation, I mentioned persuasion, also malicious intent. So let me tell you why I use in my research manipulation techniques, but also persuasion techniques or even propaganda techniques. So the reason is that, especially in NLP community, manipulation techniques and persuasion techniques overlap. So there are many different techniques that are manipulative and in the same time persuasive. So we may think that manipulation is persuasion, but with a malicious intent. And persuasion also may affect the credibility of information. Moreover, persuasion techniques sometimes are even interchangeably used with propaganda techniques, but how I understand propaganda is that propaganda is more to influence mass of people, many people, and persuasion may be also used to influence just individuals. Malicious intent, as I said, malicious intent is something which is much more subjective. And how we understand malicious intent is that malicious intent corresponds to several disinformation narratives. And malicious intention encapsulates the broader goal of the author, which guides specific narratives used to achieve that goal. And to better understand malicious intent, which we may think also as a kind of group of disinformation narrative, it's also valuable to see what we understand under disinformation narrative. And disinformation narrative we define as a repeating pattern found in several disinformation articles. Now it's time to present data sets which I worked on. These are not all data sets, but I will mention some of them, most important. Most important data sets for me are especially MIPD, multi-dis, EU-Disinfo, Malin, because this is something I published or I'm trying to publish because Malin is under review now. MIPD is a high-quality novel Polish dataset, which focuses on understanding of disinformation in terms of malicious intent and manipulation. Multi-dis is multi-topic English disinformation datasets. There we have only annotation with disinformation. EU-Disinfo is collected from EU versus Disinfo database, which includes pro-Kremlin disinformation. And actually, the first datasets I worked on during my PhD studies almost 3 years ago was datasets that were used at 2 workshops. And the first one was a STEMable workshop and the task about detecting the genre, the framing, and the persuasion techniques in online news in a multilingual setup. And the second one was a workshop called Diplomats. And during Diplomats, we worked on tweets. And Diplomats is about automatic detection and characterization of propaganda techniques and narratives from diplomats of major powers. Oops. Okay. Okay, so now let me show you more details about MIPD. MIPD, as I said, as I mentioned, is a data set that is the first high-quality corpus annotated by fact-checking experts with disinformation and also with different manipulation techniques and malicious intent. Our annotation process was quite comprehensive, quite difficult also. There were many stages of this our annotation process, but the main stages of annotation was to annotate this information and the labels we had for this annotation was disinformation, credible information, and hard to say. So when annotators, independent annotators, didn't agree on a final label, it was possible to annotate with hard to say label, and these articles with hard to say were excluded from the dataset, at least for the further experiments, but we published also with hard to say articles. Then the next stage was to annotate manipulation techniques. There were 11 different manipulation techniques and malicious intent, which are 9 different types of malicious intent. All of this was done with cooperation of highly experienced fact checkers and debunkers, which had experience from the at least three years experience from the accredited fact-checking or debunking organizations. What is also seen in NLP research is that most of datasets in misinformation research and disinformation research are about 1 or 2 topics at most. And we have much more. We have about 10 topics. For example, about climate crisis, we have also COVID, LGBT plus issues and migrants issues. Our annotation guideline was published, and we also tried to extend this dataset to English. And soon, I hope, we'll publish also English version. So MIPD dataset was published at EMNLP in 2024. There are different experiments based on experiments we've done, and here you can see just a subset of it, and these are just simple baseline experiments, at least what is shown here. And so we used Herbert Polish model, Herbert and Polish Roberta, and also at that time GPT-4 was something quite novel, quite new. So we used also GPT-4 to understand how how generative models are the ability of generative models to detect disinformation in a zero-shot approach. So we used different prompts with definition of disinformation, without definition. It seems that actually even definition may improve detection of disinformation using large language models. Next data set, which is under review now, is Malint. And Malint is first English high-quality data set annotated with also by fact-checking experts, but this time also with help of students. And it's designed again to explore this information in terms of malicious intent. Here you can see different categories we have, and what's novel about this dataset is that also while doing annotations, we saved all different annotations from all stages. So. We do not only publish dataset with the final labels, but also with all independent labels given by annotators at any stage of annotation. So we also give a possibility to NLP community to explore annotation process in this information. Well, again, this on this dataset, I've done different experiments. First of them, of course, were to just understand how well different language models, small and large language models, detect malicious intents. I've done it on two different tasks. One was multi-label classification, and the second one was binary detection of each intent category. If it comes to small language models, so BERT-based encoder models, I fine-tuned these models to the problem, and if it comes to large language models, we used mostly zero-shot prompting. Slavic NLP 2025 is also something which I worked on during my PhD studies. Actually, the leading person was Jakub, who is affiliated with Polish Academy of Sciences. So I took part in co-organization of shared task for Slavic NLP 2025. And we had two different tasks to detect persuasion, so binary problem, and also persuasion classification, multi-label classification on a paragraph level. And this time, this data set includes parliamentary debates. And the another genre which we also have is social media, posts. So for Russian, we have social media posts. For other languages, Polish, Bulgarian, Slovene, Croatian, we have parliamentary debates. It was actually quite fun to annotate parliamentary debates in terms of persuasion techniques. There is a lot of persuasion happening in our parliament. And here you can see results from both tasks. The first one, binary, is visible on the persuasion detection. And you can see that baseline was quite good because actually I've used baseline, which was fine-tuned multilingual Roberta. And most of teams, because what you can see in the rows of this table are names of the teams, because there were different teams that took part in the workshop, in the task. And many teams used large language models, and it's visible that sometimes when we fine-tune smaller models, they provide better results than large language models. And it's visible on this table. And here are results from multi-label classification. Now I would like to start with next part of my research, which is using persuasion and malicious intent to augment reasoning for enhanced disinformation detection. Why actually I wanted to do research, and what is my motivation also. In general, we saw that actually malicious intent and also persuasion, manipulative techniques, it's visible even in a definition that disinformation is coexist with these two components. But also there are different psychological studies and in communication studies. We see that there is, in psychological studies, scientists show that teaching individuals to recognize persuasive fallacies improves their ability to distinguish between real and fakes. Moreover, in psychology and communication studies, there is something called inoculation theory. And inoculation theory suggests that just as people can be protected against viruses through vaccines, they can also be vaccinated to resist persuasive messages. Inoculation theory includes something called inoculation message. An inoculation message has two main parts. In general, these two main parts are a threat, and a threat is something that is alerting individuals to be prepared for persuasive attack. So we can also think about it as alerting people, individuals to be prepared for disinformation, for misinformation. The next part is pre-banking, which is also called reputational preemption. And it involves providing people with different arguments, with different tools, devices that help them to resist persuasive attacks. So it helps them to better recognize and respond to these attacks, to disinformation attacks or persuasive attacks. So I wanted to do something similar with large language models and to check if augmented reasoning will improve with these ideas from inoculation theory will improve the detection of disinformation. And my main objective in one of my research was to answer the research question, thus incorporating knowledge of persuasion strategies into large language models enhance their disinformation detection performance. And I've done many different experiments. We presented something called, which we call PCOT, which is Persuasion Augmented Chain of Thought. And this was published this year at ACL. Persuasion augmented chain of thought is actually something simple. And we can show it in two simple steps. There are two main stages of persuasion augmented chain of thought. So in the first stage, we use persuasion knowledge, and we pass persuasion knowledge with articles that we want to analyze to large language models, and we prompt to get an analysis of persuasion. Then we use this persuasion analysis together with the same article, and we pass it again to the large language model to detect disinformation. And it seems that actually even this quite simple step may improve disinformation detection. Now more details about the first stage. So in the first stage, I've done many different experiments. I evaluated many different approaches, and for example, I developed prompts that incorporate knowledge of persuasion, which is quite structured knowledge used from also from ACL 2023, from the taxonomy presented by Dyskorski et al. And this taxonomy includes 6 different high-level groups of persuasion, 6 different persuasion strategies. I call them also persuasion strategies. And these are attack on reputation, justification, simplification, distraction, call, manipulative word. So the objective in the first stage was to do multi-label zero-shot detection of persuasion strategies with additional contextual explanation per each persuasion strategy. In this table, you can see results from 3 different approaches I checked. Bayes is just a basic, simple method that we in this Bayes multi-label task we do not provide any knowledge about persuasion. We just only provide categories of persuasion strategies. So this was just like to see how we improve comparing to the baseline method. Then I've also these are only few evaluations I've tried, but most important, what we found is that using a single prompt to identify all persuasion strategies was more effective than separate prompts for strategies binary classification. So the DTAT is the detection at one task at a time, so one category at a time, which means binary classification per category, per persuasion strategy. And multi-label task was something which is chosen for the final method. In the second stage, I've used work from EMNLP 2023 that presented different prompting methods to detect disinformation. It was evaluated on human annotated disinformation and also on LLM generated disinformation. I've taken 3 most the best on human annotated, because we work here on human annotated datasets. And in the second stage, we passed the knowledge about persuasion strategies. This time it's generated analysis, and also we detect disinformation in the second stage, and the second stage was compared. The whole PCOT actually was compared to this to these 3 methods taken from UMNLP paper. So objective here was zero-shot binary classification of disinformation. Why we've chosen zero-shot classification, zero-shot approach in general, is just because we wanted to have something that will generalize. So generally, it's like when you use BERT models and you fine-tune it on a specific dataset, then it is not that good on another dataset, which can be from another domain, from another topic. And large language models, they have a better ability to generalize. Well, so PCOT was evaluated on different datasets. 3 of them were already published and highly cited datasets like COAIT or ISOT fake news. And 2 of the datasets were published together with this paper, inspired by work which I previously mentioned from EMNLP 2033. I wanted to compare PCOT to baseline models to baseline methods on 4 different groups of articles. The first one was to understand how PCOT works on fake news. The second, social media disinformation, and also to understand how PCOT works on prior cutoff data and post cutoff data. So I've done experiments on 2 datasets, MultiDisEU and EU Disinfo, which included articles that for sure were not included in training dataset of any tested large language models, because there was a certain knowledge cutoff of these language models. And our articles were more up to date. Here you can see results, which show that actually persuasion augmented enhanced reasoning for large language models works in terms of detection disinformation. And this may be seen as a quite simple work, but I think it's something that is the beginning of improving our current large language models in detection of disinformation. So you can see that actually we improved on all across all groups on articles, posts, prior cutoff, post cutoff data. Overall average improvement was about 15% improvement. And how to read this table? So, for example, here we have GPT-4o mini, so evaluations of with GPT-4o mini model, and one it's a method from mentioned paper from EMNLP. And as a base, we have a F1 score here for base, so it's just for one method. And then we enhanced this one method to persuasion augmented chain of thought. And here is the improvement. So we not only checked the how PCOT works in general, but also we checked something which we can think like prompt. It's not specific to one prompt, so we can use different prompts, we can use different methods, and we all still improve with PCOT. As I said, there are a lot of different evaluations which I've done, and some of them are showed also here. I've checked PCOT in comparison to 3 other prompting methods like rephrase and respond, or chain of verification, zero-shot chain of thought, and all of these results, all of these improvements are significant. Moreover, I've checked how best performing model and smallest and worst performing model, which is Llama 3.18 billion parameters in our case, how are the results using these models with PCOT in comparison to more advanced reasoning models like O3 mini and O1 mini. Moreover, I wanted to do something like ablation study to understand how persuasion influenced the detection of disinformation. So how our improved knowledge which we pass improve the disinformation detection. So I've done experiments on base variant of PCOT where we didn't introduce the specific structured knowledge of persuasion, but just a simple definition. And we show that even with the providing definition, large language models works better, but still our method was significantly better. There are also different interesting findings which we have thanks to these experiments. One of them may be that there are 4 specific persuasion strategies that are that have a more discriminated power in terms of disinformation detection, and these are attack on reputation, simplification, distraction, and manipulative wording. We see that persuasion is used especially in disinformation, but not only. It was detected also in reliable content. And here you can see this heat map that says that we have articles which are annotated with disinformation, reliable information, and here are different groups of high-level groups of persuasion techniques. And here you have percentages. So 60 means that there was a 60% of articles annotated with disinformation where attack on reputation was detected. Moreover, we saw that PCOT improves especially on longer text and data not seen during training, so on post-cut of dataset. And also, we see that detecting disinformation is particularly challenging in texts where no persuasion strategy has been predicted. So we divided datasets to 3 subsets. The first one was where at least one persuasion strategy was detected, and the second one was where any of persuasion strategy was detected. And it seems that when persuasion appears in this information, it's easier to detect it. But PCOT improves in two of these subsets. So the natural thing which I wanted to do was to check if this is also work for malicious intent, because the second critical aspect of this information is malicious intention hidden under this information. And it seems that actually it improves. We've done similar evaluations, similar experiments, and we show that it improves, but to a lower extent that with persuasion. And now something which is not my main topic, but I cooperated on these papers, on this research, and I will talk a bit about disinformation narratives, evaluating LLMs in terms of disinformation narratives, and mining disinformation narratives. So in one of the projects, we developed disinformation EU Disinfo test benchmark. EU Disinfo test benchmark is benchmark created for evaluating LLMs ability to detect disinformation narratives. And how we created it. So this time it was done with human in the loop, but mainly assisted by large language models. We've taken disinformation narratives from EU Disinfo Lab reports, then using everything was with an expert in the loop. So we verified these broad narratives, and then we produced with AI-driven approach different base disinformation narrative, and the same with counter narratives, so base credible narratives. And also we wanted to check how large language models detect disinformation narrative when we enhance these narratives to three rhetorical dimensions, which are logos, pathos, and ethos. So we also produced additional narratives enhanced by these three rhetorical dimensions. As a result, we have about 1,300 disinformation narratives. Here you can see example of the narrative. So broad narrative taken from the EU Disinfo Lab report was refugees are criminals. Base disinformation narrative, which we can also think like a sub-narrative, is allowing refugees into a country directly leads to a significant increase to crime rates. And then we have here three enhanced with three rhetorical dimensions, which can also be called as modes of persuasion. We evaluated different large language models, and we see that if it comes to base, large language models are quite good on detecting disinformation narratives in base approach. But when we introduce to narratives pathos, logos, or ethos, then it's a different story, because in pathos it improves a bit, but logos and ethos there is a quite high, significant drop in true negative rate. Then on the true positive rate, we see something different. On pathos, there is a decrease in results. Logos also decrease, and in ethos we have a slight increase, which is probably in most of the cases not significant. So our finding was that ethos enhances perceived credibility. We may think that ethos enhances the perceived credibility. Ethos is something that includes appeals to authority. So it's kind of also logical, but not shown till now, till this study, that appeal to authorities enhance perceived credibility. So you can see it here because true negative rate drops and true positive rate is slightly higher, or at least not different. Pathos shows something different, opposite direction. So pathos is something that includes appeals to emotion. So when we see emotional content, then it seems that it's easier to detect disinformation narratives when we see emotional content. And logos is actually something that it's not works different than with ethos and pathos. And this is just our hypothesis, but we think that probably logos introduce some complexity, logical complexities that confuse models, and TPR and TNR is also lower. This work was presented at EMNLP 2024, and another one which we will present at the EMNLP this year is on about DINAM. DINAM is disinformation narrative mining method for with large language models. So we do mining of disinformation narratives with large language models, and there are three main steps of this framework, which is identifying false information. So we firstly filter, because DINAM works for fact-checking resources. So we filter fact-checking articles, and when we conclude that article reviewed the false information, because fact-checking article may have a conclusion that something is reliable or that something is false, for example. Then we just wanted to include articles that fact-checking articles that concluded that the fact-checked information was false. Then we extract these false informations, and from definition of disinformation narrative, which we to remind, we define disinformation narrative as a repeating pattern found in several disinformation articles. So by definition, we wanted to do clusters of false information, and DINAM groups our different false information to clusters, and we derive from these clusters disinformation narratives. So why this is important? Fact-checking organizations, the banking organizations, they analyze false information, they analyze disinformation, and to derive different narratives, it's not that easy to derive disinformation narratives from many different sources. So, so this is something that may probably make these people work easier to detect disinformation narratives. DINAM was used on data where we also had a date, so it was possible to do kind of like a temporal analysis. So we categorized all these information narratives into 7 main topics, and we wanted to check if these information narratives, which we detected with DINAM, if they are kind of like if DINAM detects in a good way disinformation narratives that are related to global measure events like COVID-19 or Ukraine-Russian war. And it seems that DINAM works quite well, because it started to detect disinformation narrative on COVID when COVID started, and Ukrainian-Russian war, when the conflict escalated, then it started to detect disinformation narratives even better. This is actually all what I wanted to show you. So as you see, this was mainly focused on research I've done during my PhD studies. Now I'm on the final year and there are still quite a lot of things to do. Soon the end, but yeah, quite a lot of things to do. Some words of conclusion. So like the key takeaway I hope you will take from this presentation is that persuasion and knowledge of persuasion and malicious intent may improve detection of disinformation with large language models. So enhanced reasoning of large language models by these two components improves detection of disinformation. Moreover, our work on disinformation narrative is actually something quite novel, and we started to do it independently from other researchers, and actually it came out that semi-level task this year was about disinformation narratives. And yeah, so the main key takeaway is that persuasion and intent is the part of disinformation, and we can improve detection of disinformation with these two components. My next steps, which I need to take, are unifying my experiments on malicious intent and persuasion, and I hope I will extend it also with maybe some explainable methods, and I hope to publish it in a journal. And also, I still have to publish datasets annotated with disinformation, manipulation, and intent, but this time manipulation techniques are annotated on a span level. And also with Jakub, we have quite different interesting ideas for further working on parliamentary debates. So here is just one slide of further reading. If you're interested, then I encourage you to take a look. Some of my papers, but also some papers from my supervisor at University of Padova, Professor Giovanni da San Martino. And this is actually all. If you have any questions, then you can ask.